Hello friends, Poland is disappearing. Half of all births have vanished and maternity hospitals are closing one after another. Why does the 800 plus program no longer work, and who will support the pensioners in 20 years? We're breaking down shocking numbers, the extinction of nations, and looking for the point of no return. Watch the video until the end. Friends, give a like to support the working class, a like for aerodynamics, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Much respect to you as well. By the way, TransferGo is the best money transfer service. The link is in the description. Go there and register, send money if you need to support your family and loved ones. By the way, friends, there's a catastrophe in Poland. Don't shout that it's clickbait or anything like that. That's actually the title of the article in the Polish press. I'm just relaying it. I translated it, so let's take a look at it. It's very interesting, in my opinion. Now let's get down to business. Demographic rock bottom. Each new generation is half the size of the previous one. Friends, let's take off the rose-colored glasses. When politicians talk about stability, in reality, Poland is heading into a demographic abyss. There are no official figures for 2025 yet, but the trend clearly hasn't changed. But analysts are already sounding the alarm. The fertility rate in the country has dropped to 1.1. Look, I would call this the mathematics of extinction. What does a rate of 1.1 mean? This means that 100 women have only about 110 children in total. For simple population replacement, you need 2.1. Well, 2.1 because that's just to keep the nation from dying out. Why 2.1? Well, because some children still don't make it to 18, illness, accidents, and so on. Simply put, each next generation of Poles will be half the size of the previous one. That's the trend. It's not just about having few children. This will be a collapse of the pension system, the healthcare system, and the economy. Overall, in about 20 years, the 800 plus program costs the budget more than 60 billion zlotys a year. And you know what? It doesn't work as a stimulus for birth rates. Yes, it helps poor families. It helps pull some people out of poverty, but it hasn't made people have more children. By the way, here's a very interesting article, friends. Death of maternity hospitals, ghost hospitals. And this catastrophe is already finishing off healthcare. When the birth rate drops, maternity wards just become black holes. Black holes for the budget. That's it. A whole conveyor belt of closures in 2025. Just think about these numbers. In 2025, last year, in Poland, 27 maternity wards closed at once. 27. And in January 2026, another 3 were closed permanently, and 12 suspended their operations. Poland's National Health Fund pays the hospital about 12,000 zlotys per birth, but doctors and midwives have to be on duty around the clock, even if the wards are empty. As a result, the average occupancy in maternity hospitals has dropped below 60%. Hospitals simply can't afford to pay staff salaries for all that waiting around. And an important point, the authorities are trying to get by with birthing rooms staffed only by midwives. But as of early March 2026, well, at the moment, that's the only information available, none of the hospitals have dared to take such a risk, because without doctors, what's the correct term, ladies? Please correct me, neonatologists, right? Or the one who delivers the baby. And intensive care. So without such doctors, without intensive care, childbirth just becomes a gamble. And nurses and midwives don't want to take on that kind of responsibility. And it's no wonder, given the total lack of funding. These are some shocking numbers, and on one hand, yeah, on weekends you can't get through anywhere, like there are tons of people. But on the other hand, well, the numbers speak for themselves. Next, we move on to an interesting topic, the 200,000 plus project, the radical plan of the Jagiellonian Club. I understand that the old methods just aren't working. The conservative think tank, the Jagiellonian Club, came up with an idea that made some people's hair stand on end. The proposal is as follows: to cancel the monthly 800 plus payments and replace them with a one-time payment at the birth of a child. That is, the amount is impressive. Yes, they somehow calculated it to be 208,800 zlotys. There you go. I don't know why, but in my opinion, it's 172,000. Well, anyway, those numbers are in the same range. 208,000 is like the equivalent of all the 800 plus payments over 18 years. That's it. Sorry, I remembered. Plus the active parent program. Instead of giving out small amounts over the years, the government suggests giving everything at once. Well, that's an interesting position, right? And why is that necessary? The authors of the concept, Paweł Muszalok and Piotr Trudnowski, believe that modern people don't have children for 2 reasons. Opportunity cost. That is, having a child is too expensive. It eats into your usual standard of living. Second, housing. Young families simply have nowhere to live, and the mortgage is suffocating them. A one-time payment of 200,000 zlotys could become the very lever that allows a young couple to make a down payment on a renovated apartment, or pay off a significant part of the loan, reducing the monthly payment. Well, that's the kind of proposal we're talking about. We give you a foundation, and you give the country a new citizen. Write in the comments how you would prefer it. 200,000 at once, or 800 plus over, say, 18 years. But I want to ask something else. Where will Poland get that many billions when the budget deficit in 2025 is already almost 7%? So, the author's math is simple and cynical. If in 2025, 238,000 children were born, which, by the way, is very little, then payments of 200,000 to each will cost the budget 47 billion zlotys. Let me remind you that the current 800 plus program costs 60 billion. So on paper, that's a clear saving of 13 billion. Of course, there's a catch here. I don't know why they're missing the point. They've gone silent. You can't just take the money away from those who are already getting 800 plus, because for several years, maybe even 10 or 15 years, the state will have to pay both the old recipients and the new ones. And to close this gap, a radical step is being proposed to cancel the 13th and 14th pensions, as if these elderly people are already doing just fine. And that's another 33 billion zlotys a year. And this is where things get really interesting. Well, write in the comments, friends, are you even ready to support canceling pensions for the elderly so that young people can get 200,000 for housing? Or is this a path to social upheaval? Share your opinion. Whose interests are more important, the future generation or today's pensioners? Well, if you look at it from that perspective. Of course, there are hidden pitfalls because there's a poverty trap and a surge in housing prices. Journalist Camille Pfeiffer points out 4 critical risks of this idea, and they basically affect everyone. The most obvious one is inflation in the real estate market. Remember the 2% loan program, that's it. As soon as people had money on hand, apartment prices skyrocketed. Well, if not into space, then at least into the stratosphere. If every family is given 200,000 for a down payment, developers will just raise the price by the same 200,000. Like, what are we, stupid or something? The money just comes in by itself. In the end, the banks and developers will win at the parents. Second point, money losing value. 800 zlotys today. It's not the same 800 zlotys as it was 5 years ago, and it won't be the same 800 zlotys 10 years from now. The program can be indexed, yes, to 1,000, 1,200. And a one-time payment of 200,000 will be eaten up by inflation much faster. Next, social inequality. A wealthy family will invest this 200,000 in stocks or bonds and become even richer. A poor family will most likely spend it on repairs, a car, current expenses, debts, and so on. In 5 years, the money will be gone. And the monthly support of 800 zlotys, which protected, well, you could say, some people from hunger, that will also be gone. That's it. National debt. Poland has already exceeded the European Union's debt limit of 60% of GDP. Another such cash injection could put the country on the verge of financial control from Brussels. Something's up with you, dear Poles. You're stirring things up. We need to check on you. And of course, we'll see where all this leads. These are just some thoughts based on rumors for now. What will happen? Whether it's the end of these constant handouts or not, we'll find out soon. But the fact is that Poland is in a state of deep demographic collapse. Passive observation of how the birth rate, let's say, hits rock bottom in the long term will probably cost more than even the most insane social program. There you go. 200,000 plus is not about charity. It's some desperate attempt to buy the country's future. But the price of that future might turn out to be too high for the current generation of taxpayers and pensioners. Yes, you can, yes. Write in the comments what you think. Is it better to get 800 zlotys a month for bread and diapers, or to get 200,000 and buy an apartment? And honestly, I doubt that after such a gift, which by the way comes from our taxes, Poles will really start having more children. That's it. Yeah, and of course, I especially welcome in the comments those who are actually raising their little kids. What would you spend that 200,000 on? Take care of your finances. Take care of your finances, yeah. They might run dry. Well, you know, friends, let me digress for a moment. That's basically the whole video. I just love counting money, especially when it's not mine. So, but let's try to do a rough calculation. What's more profitable over 18 years of a child's life? Here's scenario A. Standard 800 plus. You get 800 zlotys every month. Over 18 years, not counting any active management, the total amount will be 172,800 zlotys. Yes, there's a nuance. Inflation eats away at the money. That means what cost 800 zlotys today will cost about 1,500 in 10 years, roughly speaking. If there is no inflation adjustment, people will simply get poorer every year. Scenario, the second one. B, I like it more. A deposit of 200,000 plus. So you get roughly, as the program authors wrote, 208,800 zlotys in one check. And we put it in the bank at 5% annual interest, that's compound interest. If we live for another 10 years, there will be 340,000 zlotys in the account. In 10 years, and if you don't withdraw anything, by the time the child turns 18, the amount will skyrocket to 500,000 zlotys. That's 3 times more than the total of those 800 zloty benefits. So the child enters adulthood with enough capital for an apartment, a business, or something else, for education, or for travel. You could just squander it. Write in the comments what you think about this idea. Well, basically, as for what will happen, I don't know. That's all clear, right? Because people often write to me about this. Oh, Tenchik, mortgage. What will happen in a year? I don't know what will happen in a year. So what now? Still, it's less than what I pay for rent. Well, actually, no, the numbers are about the same because the maintenance fee is already huge, damn it. But look, what's the catch? Of course, there's a huge temptation that 90% of people won't bring this money to the bank. They'll do renovations, buy a car, pay off debts, and they'll go traveling around the world. In a year, the money is gone. And there's also no monthly 800 plus payment. That's it. Second, a bubble, of course. If everyone is given 200,000 for housing, developers will instantly raise the prices by the same 200,000. So people won't become richer. This money will simply be shifted from the family budget to the developer's pocket. That's it. Well, it seems to me, well, from my point of view, that paying out 200,000 right now in a lump sum, that's better. Yes, but real life also shows that most people will just spend this money. They'll spend it. So write your opinion in the comments, friends. By the way, I read everything. All right, how are we doing on time? Yeah, that's basically it. Take care of yourselves and your little ones. Leave likes, write comments, tell me which city you watched from. That's important. Friends, see you next time. That's all for today.